I'm Lena, and 5 years ago, the man I loved most kicked me out of our penthouse in the middle of the night while I was pregnant with twins before I had a chance to defend myself because he chose to believe a lie instead of me. I lost everything in one night and had to rebuild my life from nothing, step by step. Before I share the rest of my story, a story of love, betrayal, single motherhood, and unexpected miracles, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you've ever made it through something you thought you couldn't. Trust me, you're going to want to hear what happened next. The email notification pinged at 11:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I'd been watching the digital clock on the microwave, waiting for my chamomile tea to cool. Julian's voice from the home office had been sharp for the past hour. Conference calls that ran late were nothing new in our penthouse overlooking Central Park. What was new was the way he said my name when he called me in. Lena. Not babe, not honey, just Lena. Like I was a stranger who'd wandered into his boardroom. I set down my mug and walked the 17 steps from our marble kitchen to his office. I'd designed this space myself. Walnut panels, brass fixtures, a desk that cost more than most people's cars. Now Julian stood behind it like a fortress wall between us. Explain this. He turned his laptop toward me. An email thread filled the screen, something about unauthorized transfers from Maddox Capital accounts. My name appeared in bold, repeatedly. I don't understand. $200,000, Lena, transferred to an account in your name. My hands went cold. I reached for the laptop, but he pulled it back. Julian, this is insane. I don't even have access to company accounts. The forensic accountant says otherwise. Forensic accountant. He'd already investigated, already decided. You're not even going to let me look at it? Julian, we've been together for 6 years. You know me. His jaw tightened. That little muscle that jumped when he was containing rage. I'd kissed it 1,000 times. I thought I did. Pack your things. You have an hour. The words hit like physical blows. I stood there, waiting for him to blink, to soften, to remember who we were to each other. But his eyes stayed flat, corporate. The same look he gave hostile takeover targets. Julian, please, just let me... 1 hour, Lena, or I call security. I packed in 43 minutes. 6 years condensed into 2 suitcases and a carry-on. My hands shook as I folded sweaters, grabbed toiletries, left behind the jewelry he'd given me. The 3-carat engagement ring sat on the bathroom counter. We'd been engaged for 2 years, waiting for the right time to marry. I guess we'd found it. The doorman wouldn't meet my eyes as I waited for the Uber. Marcus, who'd smiled at me every morning for 6 years, suddenly fascinated by his phone screen. Word traveled fast in Julian's world. I threw up twice on the ride to my friend Sarah's apartment in Queens. She answered the door in pajamas, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside without questions. That's when the shaking started. Full body tremors that made my teeth chatter. Lena, honey, what happened? I couldn't form words, just held my stomach and rocked on her couch while she made tea I couldn't drink. The cramps started around 3 a.m., sharp, twisting pains that made me gasp. We need to go to the hospital, Sarah said. No, the word came out harsh. No hospitals, no records. Julian had connections everywhere. If he was building a case against me, any medical records could be subpoenaed. The morning sickness I'd been hiding for 3 weeks turned into all-day nausea. I knew. Even before the double lines on the pregnancy test Sarah bought me. Twins, the later ultrasound would confirm. 2 little souls who would never know their father's penthouse views. I stayed with Sarah for a week until her boyfriend started asking questions. Then a cheap motel in New Jersey. Then another friend's couch. The morning I couldn't stop crying in a diner bathroom, I knew I had to leave New York entirely. Portland chose me more than I chose it. A Craigslist ad for a studio apartment that didn't require references. A gray December morning when the rain matched my mood perfectly. I had $11,000 in savings. My personal account Julian hadn't touched. Enough to start over if I was careful. The first job was washing dishes at a breakfast place. My hands, soft from years of luxury creams, cracked and bled in the industrial soap. I wrapped them in Band-Aids and kept scrubbing. The babies, though I didn't know yet, made me dizzy during rush shifts. I'd lean against the steel sink, breathing through waves of nausea while orders piled up. "You okay, hun?" Martha, the head cook, had kind eyes behind her grease-splattered glasses. "Fine, just tired." She slipped me extra toast, scrambled eggs when no one was looking. Small kindnesses that made me cry in the walk-in cooler. I found out about the twins at a free clinic in Southeast Portland. The ultrasound tech's face changed, and she called the doctor in. 2 heartbeats flickering on the grainy screen. 2 tiny rebels who'd decided to stay despite everything. "The father?" the doctor asked gently. "Not in the picture." She nodded, no judgment. Gave me pamphlets on resources, food banks, Medicare. I'd gone from shopping at Whole Foods to memorizing food bank schedules. The kind of plot twist that would have made Julian's investor friends chuckle over whiskey. March in Portland was cherry blossoms and constant rain. I worked 3 jobs: dishwashing mornings, freelance design work on a borrowed laptop, weekend shifts at a plant nursery. My belly grew rounder, harder to hide under thrift store sweaters. I told people the father was deployed overseas. Easier than the truth. The night I almost called him, I was 7 months pregnant and sobbing on my bathroom floor. My ankles were swollen, my back screamed, and I'd just been fired from the restaurant for being too slow. I pulled up his contact, still saved under "My Love," and stared at the number. 1 call, 1 explanation. Maybe he'd discovered the truth by now. Maybe he was looking for me. My thumb hovered over the green button. Then I remembered his face that night, the cold certainty in his eyes. If he couldn't trust me when I stood right in front of him, why would he believe me now? I deleted his number instead, then threw up from the stress. June and Ellie arrived on a Tuesday morning in July. The nurse asked about calling the father when I was between contractions. I laughed, high on pain and exhaustion. "He's busy. Very important man." June came first, screaming and perfect. Ellie followed 4 minutes later, quieter but fierce. I held them against my chest, these tiny warriors who'd chosen to exist despite everything, and promised them we'd be okay. Lying felt like love. The NICU bills would have broken me if I'd let myself think about them. Medicaid covered most, but not all. I designed websites from my hospital bed, uploaded freelance projects while learning to breastfeed 2 humans at once. My roommate brought coffee and didn't ask about the father who never showed. They had his eyes, dark and intense, even unfocused with newness. June had his stubborn chin. Ellie, his long fingers. I saw him in every expression, every milestone, every 3 a.m. feeding when I was so tired I hallucinated his presence. We found our rhythm slowly. A 2-bedroom apartment in Selwood with windows that stuck and radiators that clanged. I painted the girls' room soft yellow while they napped in their secondhand cribs. Built my design business client by client, project by project. Learned to live on 4 hours of broken sleep and grocery store brand everything. Their first words were "Mama" and "Kitty," the stray I'd foolishly let them feed. First steps in the community center playroom. June walked into walls, determined and clumsy. Ellie studied the process first, then executed perfectly. So much like their father, it took my breath away. I dated once. Peter, a photographer who volunteered at the girls' daycare. Kind hands, patient smile. Actually listened when I talked. He proposed after 8 months with a vintage ring from his grandmother. I said no while holding his face, watching understanding dawn. "You're still in love with their father." Not a question. I couldn't deny it. Couldn't explain that loving Julian was like having shrapnel in my chest, painful, permanent, potentially fatal if removed wrong. Peter kissed my forehead and left. The girls asked why Mr. Peter stopped visiting. I told them he had to take pictures far away. By their 4th birthday, we had stability. A routine, library Wednesdays, farmers market Saturdays, Sunday art projects that covered my dining table in glitter. I'd learned to braid hair and remove splinters and explain why they didn't have a daddy like their preschool friends. "He lives far away," I'd say, "but he loves you very much." The first lie felt like protection. The 100th felt like truth. The design conference was downtown. My first big professional event since New York. I'd saved for months to afford the ticket, arranged babysitting, bought a blazer from Nordstrom Rack. This was meant to be my relaunch. Lena Hartley, legitimate Portland designer, not refugee from another life. I was reviewing portfolios when the girl's babysitter called. Sick, couldn't make it, of course. I considered skipping, but June heard me mention the art party, and their faces lit up. So we compromised. They'd come for the outdoor portion, the family-friendly festival component. They wore matching sunflower dresses I'd sewn myself. Ellie carried her sketch pad, June her watercolors. We set up at a quiet corner table where they could draw while I networked. Professional mother, making it work. "Look, Mama, a puppy!" June's shriek cut through crowd noise. She was already running, Ellie close behind toward a golden retriever near the fountain. I grabbed our things and hurried after them, calling their names. That's when I saw him. Julian stood by the fountain in conversation with someone I didn't recognize. Older, silver, threading through the dark hair I'd once run my fingers through. The same sharp jaw, same perfect posture. Time stopped, reversed, shattered. Our eyes met across 20 feet of Portland afternoon. His mouth opened, closed. The person he'd been talking to kept speaking, unaware the world had shifted. I watched recognition hit him like a physical blow. Then his gaze dropped to the girls. To June tugging my hand, to Ellie's face turned up asking permission to pet the dog. I saw him do the math. See himself in their features. Understand. I didn't run, didn't speak, just nodded once, acknowledging what couldn't be hidden, then took my daughter's hands and walked away. Professional. Calm, while my heart tried to break my ribs from the inside. The flowers arrived the next morning. White roses, 24. No card. I knew. The girls danced around them, delighted. I let them each take one for their room and put the rest on the kitchen table where they watched me not eat dinner. The letter came that afternoon. Hand-delivered, his handwriting that I could still identify from across a room. "Lena, I know I have no right to ask for your time, no right to anything. But please, let me apologize. Let me explain what I've learned, what I know now. There's a coffee shop on River Road, neutral ground. Thursday, 2 p.m. I'll wait. Julian." I burned the letter in my sink and watched the smoke alarm shriek. The girls covered their ears, laughing at Mama's silly mistake. If only they knew how many mistakes had led us here. Thursday came anyway. I arranged a play date, put on my best jeans, drove to the coffee shop like I was approaching my execution. He was already there. Corner table, 2 cups waiting. Still presumptuous after all these years. "Thank you for coming?" His voice hit me in the chest. Deeper now, rougher. I sat down but didn't touch the coffee. Couldn't trust my hands. 5 years, Julian, you have 15 minutes. He flinched but nodded, then pulled out a folder. Documents, testimonials, evidence. His assistant, Marcus Chen, who I'd trusted, had orchestrated everything. Forged my signatures, created the accounts, planted the evidence. A power play gone wrong when Julian reacted exactly as Marcus hoped. I fired him 2 years ago when discrepancies surfaced. Started investigating by then. He gestured helplessly. By then I was gone. "I looked for you, hired investigators, but you disappeared completely." Good, I'd done one thing right. They're mine, not a question. Biologically, yes, but they don't know you, don't need you. We've built a life. His hands clenched around his coffee cup. "Lena, I'm so—" "Don't." The word came out sharp enough to cut. "Your apology is 5 years too late. You threw me out like trash while I was pregnant. Do you understand that? I was sick, scared, carrying your children, and you chose to believe forged emails over 6 years together. I know, God, I know, if I could go back but you can't." I stood up. We can't. Those girls have never gone to bed wondering why Daddy didn't tuck them in. Never waited by a window for someone who wasn't coming. I won't put them through that now. I'm not asking to disrupt their lives. Just, please, let me know them, in whatever capacity you're comfortable with. The reasonable tone. The negotiator. I'd watched him acquire companies with that voice. I'll think about it. I left him there with 2 full cups of coffee and whatever remained of his conscience. Drove home, shaking. The girls were painting with watercolors at the kitchen table, tongues out in concentration. June had purple in her hair. Ellie was explaining color theory to her stuffed elephant. Mama, look, I made you! June's painting was all bright colors and wild lines. A stick figure with curly hair and a huge smile. The mother she saw. Not the woman falling apart in the driver's seat 20 minutes ago. It's perfect, baby. That night, I sat on their bedroom floor, watching them sleep. June sprawled like a starfish. Ellie curled tight, clutching her elephant. Beautiful, perfect, mine, ours, but also his. I let him meet them as Mama's friend from work. Structured visits at public parks where escape routes were clear. He showed up to the first one in a $1,000 sweater and designer jeans, trying to look casual. The girls studied him with their father's intense focus. You're tall, Ellie announced. Why does your watch glow? June wanted to know. He fumbled with small talk, clearly unused to humans under 4 feet tall. But he tried. Got down on their level to examine Ellie's leaf collection. Let June paint his hand with playground chalk. Didn't flinch when she sneezed directly onto his sleeve. Same eyes, Ellie told me later, pointing between Julian and her reflection in the car mirror. Too smart, always too smart. The visits became weekly. He learned their rhythms. June needed constant motion. Ellie required thinking space. Both demanded stories with proper endings and answers to endless questions. He bought parenting books. I saw them in his car. Took notes on his phone when he thought I wasn't looking. He's nice, June decided after a month, but sad, like Mr. Elephant when he lost his button. From the mouths of babes. Ryan, the photographer who'd loved me, called one evening. Back from an assignment in Thailand, wondering about coffee. I said yes out of loneliness, met him downtown while the girls stayed with their babysitter. He was the same, kind, steady, uncomplicated. Everything Julian wasn't. I heard you've been spending time with their father. Small city, smaller circles. It's complicated. He smiled, sad and knowing. It always was with you two. I didn't deny it. Couldn't explain how Julian's presence had cracked open something I'd sealed shut. How I caught myself looking for him at drop-off. How my traitorous heart still accelerated when his text tone chimed. The article hit on a Tuesday. Billionaire's secret family splashed across Portland society blogs. Grainy photos of Julian at the park with the girls. Speculation about timelines, custody battles, scandal. My phone exploded with calls I didn't answer. The preschool director met me at the door Wednesday morning. Photographers had been calling. Parents were concerned. Could I verify the children's parentage, provide documentation, ensure this wouldn't disrupt the learning environment? I kept my voice level while my hands shook. Yes, Julian Maddox was their biological father. No, there was no custody dispute. Yes, I'd handle the media attention. Sorry for the inconvenience to their star student fundraising efforts. The girls felt the shift. Other parents whispered at pickup, playdates canceled, birthday party invitations that never came. I watched June's confusion when her best friend said her mom couldn't come over anymore. Is it because we don't have a daddy in our house? How to explain adult cruelty to a 4-year-old. How to protect them from choices made before they existed. Julian called 19 times before I answered. I'll fix this, he said immediately. Like you fixed us? By throwing money at it? By making it disappear? Lena, no, you don't get to save us now. You don't get to be the hero. My daughters are being punished for existing, and that's on you, on your world, your people. I hung up, threw my phone hard enough to crack the screen. Then sat on my kitchen floor and sobbed while the washing machine hummed and the roses he'd sent wilted in their vase. That night, I held the girls extra close. Read 3 stories instead of 2. Promised them everything was okay while tasting the lie. He held a press conference without telling me. I found out when Sarah called from New York, watching CNN in disbelief. Julian Maddox, notorious for his privacy, standing at a podium explaining personal mistakes, taking responsibility, announcing a leave from his company to focus on family. The mother of my children deserves privacy and respect. Any harassment will be met with full legal action. Corporate speak for back off or I'll destroy you. It worked. The photographers disappeared. The whispers faded to occasional glances. The preschool director smiled again. But Ellie had nightmares now. June clung more. They'd felt the earthquake even if they didn't understand the cause. I didn't ask you to do that, I told him at our next park meeting. You shouldn't have had to. He was pushing June on the swing. Steady rhythm. Infinite patience. She shrieked with delight, demanding higher. Ellie sat beside me, sketching him in quick, confident strokes. Already an artist, already observant. She's drawing you a lot lately, I said quietly. He stilled. Would you let me have one? Her drawings? The naked want in his voice undid something. I nodded, not trusting words. Ellie glanced up, assessing, then carefully tore out a page, handed it over like a gift. Julian held it like scripture. The moment broke when June tumbled off the swing. Nothing serious. Skinned knee, shocked tears. But Julian was there first, scooping her up, checking for real damage. She burrowed into his chest, leaving snot trails on his shirt. Daddy? The word hung between us. His eyes found mine over her head, asking permission I couldn't give or deny. The moment stretched, fragile as spun glass. Let's get you a Band-Aid, he said finally. Gentle deflection. But June had already moved on, distracted by promises of ice cream. The call came at midnight. Ellie's school. There'd been an accident on the playground. She was okay, but needed stitches. Could I come immediately? I called the babysitter, got voicemail, called another, then another. Nothing. June couldn't come to the ER. She'd panic seeing her sister hurt. I was spiraling when my phone rang. I got an alert from the school, Julian said. I'm 3 minutes away. Let me take June while you go to Ellie. No hesitation. Pure parent instinct. I said yes. The ER was controlled chaos. Ellie, brave and tiny on the gurney, clutching the nurse's hand, 4 stitches above her eyebrow. She'd been climbing higher than allowed, reaching for something beautiful. Like Daddy, she said, drowsy from mild sedation. Reaching too high? When had he become Daddy in her mind? When had I stopped correcting it? Julian met us in the hospital parking lot. June asleep in his car, chocolate ice cream evidence on her face. He'd managed bedtime. Somehow. She asked for the elephant story. I made something up about quarterly reports. She seemed satisfied. I laughed despite everything. Exhausted, grateful, confused. He transferred June without waking her, gentle as breathing. Waited while I buckled both girls in. Didn't assume. Didn't push. Thank you. Always, he said. For them, for you, always. I drove home through empty Portland streets, girls sleeping safe behind me, his taillights following at a respectful distance until I turned into my neighborhood. Protection without intrusion. Learning. Christmas approached with its particular brand of single-parent panic. The girls had lists, modest ones. They'd learned early not to ask for too much. But even modest added up when multiplied by 2. Julian asked about presents. Could he contribute? Could he join us? Could he play Santa? They don't need your money. I know, but I need to give it. Please. Pride was expensive. I'd learned that buying generic cereal and secondhand clothes. But this felt different. Weighted. 1 gift each. Something meaningful, not expensive. He showed up Christmas morning with a handmade dollhouse. Not bought, built. I recognized his perfectionist touch in every tiny detail. Months of secret work. The girls gasped, reverent, then dove in with abandon. How did Santa know? June breathed. Magic, Julian said, catching my eye. Christmas magic. We spent the day in pajamas. Pancakes and presents and too much hot chocolate. The girls performed a puppet show with their new toys. Julian filmed on his phone. Another parent capturing memories. Normal, almost. That evening, after the sugar crash and bath time battles, we sat on my couch watching them sleep under the tree, twinkling lights painting their faces gold. I bought a house, he said quietly. Here, in Portland, 3 blocks away. My chest tightened. Julian, not pushing, just being available, present, whatever you need. I don't know what I need. I know. He stood to leave, paused at the door. But when you figure it out, I'll be here. We have time. Time. The thing he'd stolen. The thing he was offering. The thing that kept moving despite us. Winter gave way to Portland spring. Cherry blossoms and rain and the girls splashing in every puddle. Julian became fixture more than visitor. Soccer practice Saturdays. Library Wednesdays when I had client meetings. Dinner, sometimes, when the girls begged and I was too tired to fight. "Are you our real daddy?" June asked one night, direct as always. Julian looked at me. I nodded, throat tight. "Yes, baby, I'm your daddy." "Why didn't you live with us before?" "Because daddy made mistakes. Big ones. But I'm here now." She considered this with 4-year-old gravity. "Okay, can you read the elephant story?" That simple. That complicated. Ellie was quieter about it. Processing internally. Watching how we moved around each other. She started drawing families. All kinds. 2 moms, single dads, grandparents, and sometimes, occasionally, 4 figures holding hands. "That's us," she'd say. Maybe. Maybe. The word lived between Julian and me. Maybe we could co-parent. Maybe we could forgive. Maybe we could find something new in the ashes of what we'd burned. I started therapy. Unpacked 5 years of survival mode. Learned the difference between protecting my children and punishing their father. Harder lesson. Forgiving myself for still loving him. "It would be easier if I hated you," I told him one evening. The girls were at a sleepover. Their first. We were having adult conversation over wine I'd forgotten how to drink. "I know. I hate myself enough for both of us." "That's not—" I stopped, started over. "I don't want hate in this, whatever this becomes." "What do you want?" "Everything. Nothing. Time machine. Fresh start. My daughters to have their father. My heart to stop racing when he smiled. I want to stop being afraid." He reached across the table. Not grabbing, just offering. I took his hand. First intentional touch in 5 years. The world didn't end. We didn't have an ending, just a different beginning. Sunday morning. Julian making pancakes in my kitchen while the girls set the table. Badly, enthusiastically. I watched from the doorway, coffee warm between my palms. Ellie explaining proper fork placement. June sneaking chocolate chips. Julian flipping pancakes higher than necessary to make them laugh. "Mama, Daddy's making shapes." They'd settled on the names themselves. Mama and Daddy. Not the family I'd imagined at 23. Not the one I'd mourned at 29. But real, present, ours. "What kind of shapes?" I joined them. Let June pull me to the stove where Julian was attempting a butterfly pancake. It looked more like abstract art. "It's beautiful," I said, meaning it, meaning more. We ate breakfast together. Syrup disasters and spilled orange juice and June's dramatic retelling of yesterday's park adventure. Normal chaos, hard-won peace. Later, while the girls played in the yard, Julian and I sat on the porch steps. Not touching, but close. Watching our daughters chase bubbles in the morning light. "I'm not ready," I said. "For more. For us. Maybe not ever." "I know. But this, Sunday pancakes, bedtime stories, parent-teacher conferences, this I can do. It's enough," he said. "It's everything." June tripped, recovered, kept running. Ellie paused to examine a flower. My heart, split between them, somehow whole. "Ask me again in a year," I said quietly. "I'll wait." Maybe he would. Maybe I'd let him. Maybe we'd build something new from the pieces. Not the life we'd planned, but the one we'd chosen, day by day, pancake by pancake. A family, undefined but undeniable. I reached for his hand. He met me halfway. The girls shrieked with joy as a bubble caught the light, iridescent and impossible. Here for a moment, beautiful while it lasted, worth celebrating anyway. In the distance, Portland hummed its Sunday morning song. Coffee shops opening, families stirring, lives intersecting and diverging and finding their way. We sat on my imperfect porch, watching our perfect daughters play, and I knew, whatever came next, we'd survived the worst. The rest was just beginning.